It is Monday, October 2nd, and these are today's headlines. The White House claims even after this past weekend's shooting in Las Vegas, this is not the time for gun regulation policy. Additional restrictions. President Donald Trump adds more countries to his previous travel ban that's been struck down by several courts. Back in order, the Supreme Court finally resumes its duties with a full bench, more than a year after the death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. In war with North Korea, learn how the president's message was received by the regime of Kim Jong-un. I want to welcome all of our viewers around campus for tuning in. This is On Point with Politics. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Danis Marrero.
And I'm Kimberly Keagy. The State Department ordered a staff reduction of diplomats after sonic attacks. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, traveling to China, made the decision on Thursday to cut the staff by more than half its current level. Visa operations will be suspended indefinitely. The sonic attacks injured 21 American diplomats. The latest confirmed attack was in August. The State Department also issued a travel warning advising Americans going to Cuba. It says, quote, "Because our personnel safety is at risk and we are unable to identify the source of the attacks, we may believe that U.S. citizens may also be at risk and warn them not to travel to Cuba," end quote. Jose Carnandez, an analyst, reports this could give reason for the Trump administration cause to pull back from Cuba. Carnandez said, quote, "The signal that is sent around the world is that U.S. diplomats are not to be messed with, and that is an important signal that has to be sent globally," end quote. The Cuban government denies any involvement in the sonic attacks. Tillerson reiterated the United States and Cuba maintain diplomatic relations.
With the state of Pennsylvania currently in need of $357 million to aid state funding, the Port Authority transit officials of Allegheny County say half of the bus routes in the Pittsburgh region could be eliminated if the cuts are made from the city's transit budget. According to the officials, $80 million are at risk, and if the proposal passes, the PAT will need to cut 40 to 50 bus routes along with permanently removing weekend and evening services for all routes, which could affect thousands of Point Park students and staff. When asked about the cuts, Port Authority spokesman Adam Brandoff said, quote, "It would be devastating for the mass majority of our riders. Its suffering would extend beyond our transit system and would impact the city as a whole, not just us." According to the Port Authority website, over 100,000 people use the public transit each day. We will continue to inform all of you about this topic as the state is expected to announce their decision in the following days.
The Supreme Court returns to a full bench of justices after being shorthanded for more than a year by the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. The new term is to cover cases regarding political gerrymandering, whether business can turn away patrons like gay couples in the name of religious freedom, employers' power to prevent workers from banding together to sue companies, and fundamental principles of privacy in an age where cell phones record our every move. The court returned to full strength in April when Justice Neil Gorsuch replaced Justice Scalia after more than a year's fight for the bench seat. In the few cases Gorsuch participated in the last terms, he consistently voted with the court's most conservative members, Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel A. Alito Jr. This will be Justice Gorsuch's first full term. Justice Anthony M. Kennedy, who is likely to decide closely divided cases as the member of the court, has been drifting left. Justice Kennedy is 81 years old and is considering retirement. Should President Trump name his replacement, the court would be left with a conservative majority. Elizabeth Slattery told the New York Times, quote, "The upcoming term promises to be one for the history books," end quote.
According to Politico, the White House on Monday rebuffed attempts to restart the gun control debate after Sunday's deadly mass shooting in Las Vegas, with Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying now is not the time for such a discussion. After the mass shooting that claimed the lives of at least 58 and injured at least 500, Speaker Sanders urged patience and during a White House press briefing said, quote, "Today is more, again, like I said, a day of reflection, a day of mourning, a day of gratefulness for those that were saved. Think that there will be certainly time for that policy discussion to take place, but that's not the place that we're in at this moment. Certainly, I think there's a time for that to happen," end quote. And despite receiving continued backing from the White House, the NRA opted to pull a week's worth of television advertising in Virginia, where it is hoping to tip the scales in favor of several pro-gun Republican candidates, including gubernatorial candidate Ed Gillespie, Attorney General nominee John Adams, and Lieutenant Governor nominee Jill Vogel. The group will remain dark in the state until October 10th. We will have more information regarding this shooting and how Capitol Hill is reacting later in the program.
We're extending our condolences to those who were affected this weekend.
Now we'll be going on a short break. Stay tuned.
What would you do to create something that could survive 1,000 years? You'd start with a formula, head to the lab, and forge it with fire. Just imagine everything it could do. It could leak pollutants into the soil and water, or it could conserve energy, cut CO2 emissions, and reduce raw material. Recycling is more than cutting waste. Recycling is about the legacy you want to leave. Why on earth would you want to do anything else? Recycle. Don't throw away our chance at survival.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Krupp alongside Jess Paterchak. Tonight we begin with
The mayor is continuing to deal with the challenges the city is facing.
But tomorrow we have just a little bit of cloudiness. We have
off throughout the day with some strong wind gusts. That's going to continue tomorrow. 20
Teams have already started talking to free agents. Saturday is partly cloudy, but 70 degrees? Where is the pool at? I mean, come on.
You might have already burned your bracket, ripped it up. I am Royce Jones.
And I'm Casey Julian.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's your news tonight for today.
Welcome back to On Point with Politics. Let's now check up with Cole to see what's going on around the state of PA politically. Cole?
All right, thank you for that introduction, Danny's. So, in state politics, the Pennsylvania Democratic Party is endorsing Dwayne Woodruff for the state Supreme Court, marking the first time the group has ever endorsed an African American for the position. The former Pittsburgh Steeler Woodruff weighed in on President Donald Trump's criticism of the National Football League national anthem protests. Following Trump's suggestion that NFL team owners should fire players who kneel during the anthem, Woodruff stated that the remarks only caused further division in the country. Woodruff stated that comments like this coming from the president, quote, push our country to become more divided and ultimately penalize our First Amendment rights under the Constitution, end quote.
Thank you, Cole. Now let's check with our national and international reporters, Zachary and Tania.
Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you all for tuning in to On Point with Politics. This past week, politics entered the houses of sports fans via football games. The National Football League teams protested during the national anthem after President Trump spoke out against a small group of players who decided to kneel during the national anthem, using his popular, quote, "you should be fired" line, end quote. NFL national anthem singers also joined in protest of the president's words. Over 100 players knelt this week in protest, and in some cases, teams did not make an appearance on the field until after the anthem was over. That is all I have for you guys this week. Now Tania will tell us what is happening politically around the world. Tania?
Thank you, Zach. President Trump announced new travel restrictions to 8 additional countries around the world. The new ban now covers 17 countries total, with residents who cannot enter the United States. The travel ban restriction bans certain foreigners from Chad, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Venezuela, Yemen, and North Korea. The ban is coming after the Korean missile test and Trump calling leader Kim Jong-un a, quote, dotard. Trump tweeted, quote, making America safe is my #1 priority. We will not admit those into the country we cannot safely vet, end quote.
Thank you, Tania. Now, before we go on our last break, our reporter Nick Tomarello has some news regarding Congress. Nick?
Yes, Denise. Politico reports that Democrats want to see a legislative solution for current DACA recipients whom, quote, permits expired during the 6-month period to renew their applications by Thursday, October 5th. Democratic leaders stated that if DACA isn't addressed before December 8th, which is the government funding deadline, Republicans will have to, quote, include a legislative fix in the spending bill if they want Democratic votes, end quote. Finally, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer made a statement Monday after the mass shooting in Las Vegas, the worst in modern U.S. history. According to The Hill, Schumer said, quote, we cannot banish evil in the earth. Congress can't do that. The president can't do that. What Congress can do, what Congress must do, is pass laws to keep our citizens safe. Schumer later stated that necessary action, quote, starts with laws that help prevent guns, especially the most dangerous guns, from falling into the wrong hands, end quote. The Hill also stated that the Democrats are using the shooting to, quote, renew their push for broader background checks and tougher gun control bills, which are unlikely to advance in the GOP-controlled Congress, end quote. That is all I have for you tonight. Back to you guys at the desk.
Well, once again, thank you all for tuning in to On Point with Politics.
Make sure to join Kimberly Keagy and I, Danis Marrero, next time on the show. Until then, have a good night, and we hope you stayed on point with politics.